Welcome everyone to today's show. I'm your co-host, Koshan, and panelists, please introduce yourselves.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Tabana. Thank y'all for taking this ride with us on this Memorial Day weekend. So we had some interesting topics to come about that people have been talking about on social media. So this is one of them. So just feel free to share the link with all of your family, friends, anybody that you think would want to engage with us. Also, type your questions or comments in the chat so that we will be able to engage with you in the chat as well. Hey, Deborah.
This is some good stuff right here. Hey, Deborah, how are you? I
And I
want to
think, is
get
that
started.
Cody? Let him go ahead and introduce himself.
Yes, Cody, can you unmute, please, and introduce yourself? Now we can get started, Tabana.
Okay, that's fine. So, as everybody knows, I know when I tell people about this podcast, they're like, why are you on the podcast if it's Mars, men are from Mars? Well, I am here to be the objective voice. Reasoning. So this particular topic, came up through a mutual friend of Koshan and I on Facebook after Cassie's first day of testimony in the Diddy trial. And the topic is for today is, fellas, if you and your significant other met way after college or after her quote unquote wild phase, you're currently in a great place in your relationship. Would you really want to know about the wild things she did in the past? Plus, could you handle it? So, I guess we're going to start with the guys. Y'all jump right in and
I'll get started.
tell us what you think.
So, okay, Cody asked, what is the wild phase? Cody, you can chime in, but we're talking, this is wild phase. In some circles, people,
Right, but I'm not trying to talk about other people are talking, so I just thought it'd be more polite if I just said it through the text instead of talking over her. So
Okay, so
I
I
know I
guess
didn't.
I will answer the question. Wild phase. People call it a whole lot of things. I heard it called
right,
a wild phase, a whole phase, whatever phase you want to call it, right? A phase where she was definitely not
wholesome.
wholesome, okay, and where she was not
Well,
would
I
want.
still do not understand what you're implying. So, like, what is that? What does that mean?
Understand what I'm implying? Not understand?
Like, was she doing like armed robberies? I don't understand what a wild phase is. Like,
Oh,
is it
okay.
B&Es
I
or
think it.
was she
No,
murdering people? Like, what is a wild
so I
phase?
think this one is more on the sexual end because of course that's what Cassie's testimony was, involving the exploits that, was happening during these little freak offs and things like that. So this question was prompted by that. So the question was around a woman's sexual wild phase, her sexual phase where she may have
So
had
are
multiple
you
partners.
referring to a woman that's sleeping around? Is that what you're, or a man or a woman? Is that what you mean by wild phase? Like they're just wild.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're saying? They're all right, multiple partners and
Multiple
okay.
partners
Well,
could be. Well, it
we
might
can
not
just
even
say that
be.
that's not a wild phase,
It might
right?
not even be.
Just
It
saying.
might not even be multiple partners though. It could be a wild phase with one partner. Like if she had one partner, but there was just a lot of wild, freaky stuff. Like you know what I'm saying?
I do like how women get to call it wild, but if a man does it, then it's different. But okay,
Okay, we'll
I
dive
do.
into that a little
Okay,
bit too. But go ahead and
okay.
give us your thoughts on the wild. Which
It's called a phase. Okay.
So would you want to
See,
speak about that? And how would you like us to address you? It comes as Whit and Cody. How would you like to be addressed?
Cody.
Okay, Cody. And the reason I asked for you to speak up is because we have a lot of live listeners who cannot see what's being typed. But I thank you for that when you said you want to respect Tawana speaking. So would you want to know about the woman's past phases and could you handle it?
Yes and no. If a woman approached me and said I had a wild phase, that basically makes it sound like she was a tramp for a couple of years. She's like, I just slept with everybody. No, a man or a woman. That's, if you just say you had a wild phase, that's like just unacknowledging the fact that you were exploring your options and you were being sexually free. It's not a wild phase. But what I would like people to appreciate is you can't just call it a phase in life. No, it's, it, it's like if I went out and slept with 50 girls this year, would I call it a phase? No, that would be degrading those women to a phase, and that's not a phase. That would be me being unresponsible with my genitals. So, I mean, if you want to be promiscuous, if you want to have sex, that's fine, but don't call it a phase because it's not a phase. That's because you wanted to have a bunch of sex. It's not a phase in life because the way you apply it, then so is my daughter going to go through a phase and sleep with 50 guys in a year? No. So if you say it's a phase, you normalize it. I don't, I don't know about that. You normalize not knowing you don't even know the names of the people you slept with. I can't normalize that. But if you say you're promiscuous, that's different. Everybody has sexual freedom, but promiscuous isn't a phase of life. That's basically saying my daughter's going to go out sleep with 50 guys this year. No, that is not a phase. That is your choice, not a phase. You, what?
So, do you think I think people who view it as a phase is like they felt that way or thought that way at a particular time, but they no longer feel that way or think like that. Like, hey, I was in college. It was something fun to do. Got drunk at some parties, slept around with a few people. Now I'm an adult. I'm a wife or a
If
husband.
a man said the same thing, it would be a lot different. That's my issue. If a man said, I'm going through a phase where I slept with a bunch of chicks, and he would seem like a womanizer or something.
But men don't get judged for it the same way women do. So I think that's why it's being brought up as a
You
topic.
just said it. You just said it.
Yeah. But that's why it's being brought up as a topic because a man can do it and, he's just being a man, but a woman does it. And for some reason, it has to have some form of a label or a connotation to it where she's not
Yes,
wholesome or she's
thank
not,
you.
so
I was on your side there. Thank you.
yeah, I definitely get what you were saying.
But my
But
question is,
because
would you all
people
like to
view it
know
that
about it?
way,
If this happened, you got with someone years later, we all sound like we're seasoned adults, right? College for me was 30 years ago. If you met someone, 10, 15, 20 years later after college, and would you want to know about their past, in other words? So we don't get caught up in the term itself.
Right. I think, I want to say this about the quote unquote.
No.
I think that the reason why it's called a phase is because it's not something that you continue to do throughout your lifetime. So just like might have a phase where you don't eat meat, but then you might go back and start eating meat, or you have a phase where you don't do dairy. I think that's why they're using the term phase, because it's not something that you continue to do. Now, I would say, if
Would you want to know?
come up, it doesn't matter one way or the other to me, right? Like, if you want to tell me,
Mhm.
cool, I'm good with it. I don't really care one way or the other.
Okay,
Because
so if
hold on, Cody, hold on. All that really matters to me is what's happening right now, right? I could care less what you did yesterday. I could care less what you did 2 years ago, 10 years ago. Me personally, I don't care. But if they were to tell me, could I handle it? Absolutely. Because again, it is not a reflection of who you are or what you're doing and what we're doing now.
Okay, so if this guy says, you know what, at one time I had this, I don't even know how to describe it, but I just got a kick out of.
all right, so wait, if
Go
that
ahead,
guy's
Cody.
in blonde chicks and you're like, oh, tell me about your past. Yeah, I used to sleep with a lot of blonde chicks. Now the problem is every time you walk by a blonde chick, there's a stigma in your head because you're going to be like, oh, in college, he was fucking a bunch of blonde chicks. I mean, having sex with a bunch of blonde chicks. So the stigma is why you wouldn't want to know, because then you would think,
Well, these are personal opinions. These we don't generalize here, so we ask personal opinions. I can understand what you're saying, but
and if a chick had a whole bunch of threesomes in college, the guy would be like, ah, so you want a threesome. See, that's the problem.
some guys would
It's
think
called,
that. Not all guys would think that. So just like
okay, so
women would
is a
not
threesome a
look
phase?
on,
Do you grow out of that?
you could.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's different.
So, Cody, would you like to know about her past?
No, no, that's like in the past.
Okay.
If that was my opinion, I would not want to know. Create a stigma in my head. If she told me she had threesomes in college, I would be thinking she was having sex or she wants sex. If she said, if a guy told his girl I dated a bunch of blondes, every blonde they walked by, she'd be like, oh, he likes blondes. It's a stigma in your head. Nobody wants to know a stigma, a negative stigma. Nobody. You should never share your past sex life with your current partner. It's disrespectful.
Mm.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I personally disagree. I don't think it's disrespectful. I think it's a matter of what the individual person and the old
So do you
saying,
sit around and talk with your boyfriend about how you had sex with your exes? Is that what you're saying?
Cody, you gotta you can't really just jump right in and cut people off when we're talking because we gotta keep it.
My,
We gotta
my
make
bad.
sure
My
that
bad. I was
okay.
trying to jump in before you started talking. My bad.
So I think it's a personal thing where if you as a person know what you can handle and what you can't handle, right? We all know that about ourselves. So there are some people that don't ask certain questions because they don't want certain answers. They don't want to know. Their ignorance is bliss for them. They're fine, whatever, whatever. And then you might have people who say, you know what? Nope, I want to know everything, right? So it really is a personal decision. And so
Yeah,
I think
individuality is what separates us, and that's what makes everything so great. Is that you can feel one way, and there's no right or wrong to this. There's no what we're talking about. If one person feels one way, then that makes the other person wrong. No, we're all right. It's just our different opinions on how we feel. It doesn't make you right or me wrong, you wrong and me right, but
Agreed.
everybody's different.
So that's what we want to hear, everybody's views. We want to hear the different views and opinions on this. So as a male, I was, looking at the question, and we met after college, and we're in a great place in our relationship. What I really want to know about the wild thing. So this,
I can run to her. She was in the middle of talking. That was my bad.
no, go ahead. This question has a couple of parts, right? So the first part is this: the way it's worded by saying we're in a great place in our relationship. It's like we've gotten beyond the whole 20 questions point. And Tavon and I, we always talk about this. I think that we agree on the point. Well, we both talk about communicating in the beginning, right? Don't put your fake foot forward and act a certain way. And then over time, the real you starts to come out. The mask comes off. So if these things weren't asked in the beginning, and we're now in a great place, there's no need to bring it up, in my opinion. I was in a situation where I was with someone and we discussed those things. We talked about it. Hey, not in specific details, but yeah, hey, I, had a little fun at this time. I worked at this place, you know, dated a few guys, messed around with a few people at the job, blah, blah, blah. All right, that's cool. A few years into our relationship, their friend would always bring up specifics. No, Cody, it's not about, I don't think it's a issue thing, but their friend would bring up specifics. And I was like, hey, we've discussed all that stuff. I don't care about it. Right. And I think that they really thought I didn't know the person's past, but I didn't care about the past. That wasn't why we were together. I know I'm not finding, I'm 50 years old on my birthday. I know I'm not finding a virgin. So whatever someone did, that's what they did. Now, saying would I be able to handle it if I knew about it is fine. Now, if you told me one thing and then I found out it was completely different, it's not about me not being able to handle what you did. It's about me not wanting to deal with a liar. Because if you lied about one thing, you can lie about anything. But that's just my perspective on it. And Cody, I'm going to let you get the mic, but I want to ask the ladies, Dr. Anderson. I see that you've joined us. We want to pose this question for you as well. We'd like to let our guest chime in first. If you and your significant other met way after college or after their wild phase, and you're currently in a great place in your relationship, would you really want to know about the things that he or she did in the past? And could you handle it, Dr. Anderson? We want to hear what you have to say about that.
Greetings to everyone. To your question, no, I would not want to know. And I wouldn't want to know.
And for some reason,
Thank you. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, you're not. I told you it's not a racial thing, Cody. It's just a difference in opinion, views and
A
opinion.
personal opinion thing, yeah. Because for me, I don't
I want to ask.
I don't care to know.
I want to finish with Dr. Anderson. You said you do not want to know. So then, if somehow you're with someone you've been dating for a year or two, hey, this is the one. We're about to be married, and somehow someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, you're about to marry him, girl." Back in such and such, or back in the days.
Well, you do want to know what your partner prefers, right? I mean, you want to know how to please them. So every partner is different. So maybe you do have a partner that's different. So, I mean, that changes everything exponentially.
Right. Well, hold on. So Dr. Anderson, would that change anything if someone brings up some things to you that you didn't know? Would you look at your partner differently?
Well, first of all, if I have grown with my partner in a relationship and he and I respect one another, and as you've posted, we're about to get married, to be quite honest, I'm not inviting another woman or any outside entity to form my opinion about the man that I'm with. I would believe and trust that out of professional courtesy, that individual respects me enough and I respect him enough that if there is something that we need to reveal to one another, I would hope that trust is there.
Ma'am, you have some really good grammar.
Okay. Okay.
That's a compliment.
Okay.
Whoa.
And so I would certainly, I'm not inviting another woman or another individual into our relationship to that manner. And so I'm not inviting that in. I'm not going to start our relationship that way. And so that's where I stand.
So you obviously weren't raised in the ghetto. I can tell by the way that you talk.
I wasn't raised where? I'm sorry.
He said in the ghetto. She is Dr. Anderson, Cody.
I know. Right. And I can tell by the way she talks. She's thinking about the words that she's saying before she says them. She's so. No, this is a compliment. That lady has some really good grammar.
Okay, so wait a minute, but I want to pause. So, Cody, there definitely are cultural differences, okay? So let me help you out. That's probably not
I
the
know.
nicest thing
Mormons
to say
like to sleep with 9 people. I get that.
or a black person, period, that you probably weren't raised in the ghetto. That's not cool to say at all. So let's not do that. Okay?
No, that was not your Tori.
It was. So just so you know.
No, it's not. I was raised in the ghetto. So it's not.
I'm gonna let you.
I was raised in homeless and domestic violence shelters. There's a big difference.
It doesn't
That's
have.
not-
Somebody just asked in the comments, what does that have to do with?
Ghetto is a derogatory term, then that I apologize for saying the word ghetto. If that's what you took offensive. Okay.
Coach Sean, this your thing. So I need you to get your guess.
Well, yeah, I didn't know what we were talking about.
I don't understand how that's derogatory. I don't. Yeah, I'm ghetto. There's 80 billion of them in New York. So why would you? I didn't say anything offensive.
Yeah, I didn't.
The projects exist. If I said the word project, would you call me a racist? Wait a minute. Let's all calm down.
No, I didn't view it that
No,
way.
there is cultural differences. There is cultural. There are more abortions in poor neighborhoods than rich neighborhoods.
Right.
That's a fact.
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm being racial.
Right.
Because there's more black abortions. That nothing to do with it. I'm not being racist. I just said there's a cultural difference. There's more abortions in poor neighborhoods.
Wait. But we need to stick with the topic now. So I appreciate you,
Women are from Venus.
Dr.
I'm on that term. Women are from Venus. Men are from Mars. There's two different types of thinking.
Hey,
Yeah.
Cody. So again, on the podcast, we don't overtalk. So you keep unmuting and you keep over talking. So I'm going to ask you one last time not to do that. Okay.
All right. Go ahead. Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Anderson, for your response. And we have another guest here, Preezy. Welcome. And just to revisit the topic that we're discussing. And basically, what you want to know about that person's wild phase. Deborah, I think you were talking next. Please tell us what you like to say, Deborah.
I was trying. I was just going to say, we should, there's a level of communication that, you would most likely hold with someone who's going to be your significant other. Me personally, I don't need to know what you did in your past, what type of phases you had, none of that. As long as you're safe in this moment when you're with me, it's just like Tavana said, it's about what's happening with you right now. That's what I care about. I don't care about what you did back then. The same way I don't feel like you should want to judge me because if you don't ask a question, you might not know an answer. So if that's not a conversation that we have, then it's clearly you're not going to really know what someone did back in their college days or whatever have you, unless y'all are just going through those type of stories. It wouldn't bother me. I would be able to handle it as long as you wasn't beating on no woman or nothing like that, then I'm okay.
I have a quick question. And welcome. We have a new caller in. Geechee Black, what's going on, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. And thank you for joining us. And we're talking about everyone's phase, their wild phase. And it's two parts. Would you want to know? And could you handle it? And I got a question for the women. And I think it's not exclusive to women, but speaking to a lot of men, our views on this is different. But for the women, what if the man's past included homosexuality? Will that change anything?
I'll go. So before I go, I just want to say, Geechee Black, thank you for joining us. Y'all, this is his post. This came from his post on Facebook. So any questions about intents or anything like that, we will definitely defer to him because this was his actual post that we brought this topic from. So thank you for letting us use it and thank you for joining us, Geechee. So for me, honestly, I don't know. I have thought about that so many times because I think it's such a double standard. You know what I mean? That is a double standard. And I think that a lot of times it's like, oh, if you did that one time, tried it, didn't like it, don't matter. This is how you are forever. And I don't think I necessarily agree with that. So I think for me, if you were honest about it and it was not something that's like a regular thing, like it was a one time, maybe too drunk or just, I don't know, wanted to see or try.
Experimental.
Yeah,
Right.
experimental.
Experimental.
I think I would be able to be okay with that. Because again, I look at it from a human standpoint and I understand that as when a woman has the same experimental phase, it's not an issue. So I don't really think it should be an issue on the other
Yeah,
end.
that's what I said from the guys in the barbershop. This is something we've talked about for 20 plus years. And men don't view it the same as like women experimenting with one another. They think, well, I can't say all, but from the men that spoke about it in the barbershop, it's like, man, it just seems like that's what women have adult sleepovers. They'll go out to a club. I was too drunk to make it home. We slept on her bed. We'll sleep on the sofa. You can go and visit, and women will go to each other's houses and just hop in the bed with one another. So it's not viewed the same as a man. And I just want to know how you all would feel about that situation if that was included in the man's past. And Black, we
I
want to hear
feel
what you have
like
to say about it. Would you want to know about her past? And is there like a line where you would not have wanted her to cross? It's like, explain that.
So I'd like to chime in real quick on something that was said, and how transparent can I get?
You can be as
Just
transparent
no
as you want,
profanity.
just no profanity, right?
Okay. So for the females or the woman that's on here now, I feel as though 90%, if not 100%, if you're dealing with a guy, y'all were dating or however it may be, and he says, I just want to speak my truth and let you know something honestly up front before we continue on.
Preach, Black.
My freshman year of college, I went to some interest meeting. We got drunk and I gave a guy head, but it was just that one time. I didn't like it and it was what it was. But, I want to tell you myself before it comes back up. Now, y'all can't sit here and tell me that y'all won't judge that man or if that's a non-negotiating factor for you all.
so. Technically, if I can chime in, I I I look at it like Tavana looks at it. Right? We're all
But you just
human.
interrupted
We are
them.
all
Here's them
here.
not talking.
Say that again. I'm
I'm
sorry.
joking. I was just joking with you. All right, you're good.
Okay. We're all human. And I look at everyone like they are human. We're all here to have an experience. And whatever that experience turns out to be, it is what it is. So if that is something that you did in your past that you experimented with and you didn't like it, right? One, the fact that you're being honest with me about it lets me know that at least you're accountable for what you've done,
Hey, can
right?
we
That
all just give this
maybe
guy a shout out for being an honest individual? And he made himself vulnerable and
Go ahead, Deborah.
thank you. Thank you. Like I said, one, you're honest with me about it. Two, I would hope, I can't say that you do, but I would hope that you have no shame around it, right? Because it's something that you chose to do, whether you was intoxicated or not. You chose to put your mouth on that man. So as long as that's the case, like, you're like, I'm not going to look at you any different. I mean, I've never done anything with another woman, but I don't judge another woman who experimented and maybe didn't like it. Like, it's the same for men. Men go through those things, especially men who may have, had some form of, sexual abuse in their past. That is something that they may experiment with because they're not sure, and they
I
need
think
to
a
make
lot.
sure and they
Go ahead,
need to
Deborah.
make sure that they are sure of what side of the fence they want to swing on. You get what I'm saying? So no, you don't have to judge somebody for doing that. I wouldn't judge somebody for doing that, as long as it's not. Now, I don't want to deal with you if you're open in sexuality like that right now, because I don't trust that. I don't want to be involved with anyone like that. But if it's something from your past, that is definitely something I can look over and I can say, okay, well, that was a phase. You said it was a phase. Might it just make me just, it's kind of one of those things I put in the back of my mind and be like, if I ever see anything, I might have to question it. But for right now, if you're not showing me any signs or anything to have to really perk up about, then no, like, to each his own, and you can still be my man.
Hey, go ahead, Cody. You had your question, Vici.
So the difficult part about that, and I understand everything that you're saying, and in the culture though, and I gotta speak for me and my surroundings. That's something that's kind of hard to come back from, even in the state. If you dealt with a female and back in college, she had a wild phase, going back to the topic, and she engaged into a threesome with some guys, or more than two guys. I get it. She was young. and she had her fun and everything like that. But it takes a real maturity level to look past that, especially if it was done more than once. Because if it was done more than once, then it seemed like you had a liking to it, right? That's why, especially men with daughters, we preach a lot about be careful of the decisions you make, because these decisions can haunt you for a lifetime. And I hate to use the word haunt, but we're being real. We're being transparent on it. Those things will come to haunt you in a later time frame. So I know for me, at my age now, you know, I'll be honest, it'll be kind of hard for me. Well, I just wouldn't go to your homecoming. Let's put it like that. I just wouldn't go. I love you and everything. Don't take me there, because now you put me under pressure, because those guys, we are those guys.
Right.
We are those guys that's at homecoming, and we look at the young ladies who may have had that experience or whatever, and we see them with their husbands or their boyfriends, and we be like, "Shoo, well, she was something back then." Here, that would never leave our minds. It would never. So it's kind of hard, and again, it depends on your maturity level and how much you love that person, and if you're willing to put that in the back of your mind. To make a long story short, I ain't asking. I don't want to know. We're great in the space that we are now, but if you did have a past, don't take me to that homecoming. Hey, baby, you go ahead and sit this one out. Okay, cool. I understand it.
Hey,
But do you think if you did find out something and you were in love with that woman, would you be able to handle it though? Is your maturity level at the point where you could handle something like that and not judge her for it if it was in her past?
Depending on where we're at now, like our prime example, my wife and I, if I was to find out something from her past, like i.e. 30 years ago, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't dwell on the past. We living in the present. Now, if she ran through a dorm and I found that out, I'm like, well dang, baby, like what you had going on.
But you're not
Like,
gonna get
But
divorced.
y'all already married.
yeah, but
You're not gonna divorce her. You
no,
might
I'm
some
not
kind of
going
way,
to
but
divorce
you're
her.
not
But
gonna
I'm be like,
divorce her.
you, and the good thing that I love about our relationship, we talk about everything. So these types of conversations we had in the beginning. And I know there's probably certain things that she may take to the grave, and there's probably certain things I wanted to take to the grave. I don't want to know. But if I were to find out, there's nothing I can do about 20, 30 years ago, stuff like that. I mean, it is what it is at this point. As long
So
as we got
we had a comment in the chat from Prezi. Says that sometimes it's a man's fantasy for two women, so they look at it. Men look at it. I guess he's saying men look at it differently. Is that what you were saying, Prezi? Men look at it differently because sometimes that's their fantasy.
I think
Yes. Hey, everybody. How you doing? I'm Preezy from the Listen Up Listen podcast. And first of all, I want to thank y'all for allowing me to be on the panel.
Yes,
And
welcome.
thank you. And I do believe that when you guys were talking about could women deal with their man having a past of dealing with other men opposed to a woman dealing with another woman, I think men look at women like it's a fantasy to them. I don't think it would bother them so much to find out that their woman dealt with women opposed to a woman finding out that the dude that she's dealing with now dealt with men. That's how, I feel. And I think, I put it like this. I liked what Tavona is your name? Tavona, am I saying that right?
Savannah.
Tavana and Deborah and Dr. Rachel, I like your comments because I feel like whatever you did in the past, if you, turned spiritually, you got yourself together and, I did this because we're all imperfect and we all done things that, maybe we shouldn't have done. But I think that if you got yourself together and say, hey, I did this, I did that, I'm not with that anymore, this is who I am now, that person should accept you, and you just go on from there, and just leave it like that. Some people can deal with it, some people can't. Like, your mind goes all over the place when you start thinking about, different things. Oh, you did that, you did that. But we're imperfect. Nobody is God, nobody's Jesus Christ. So we try to do better, whatever was in our past that we didn't care for or we shouldn't have done. And we move on, and we just respect each other in a relationship, and to say like, hey, I'm not with that anymore. I'm with you, and this is who I am. But if you, like Deborah said, if you start seeing things like, hey, are you really done with that? Then that could, you start getting a question mark. That's different. Like that perfect song, Another Man Is Beating My Time. Nobody wants that to happen to them if you're telling me, hey, listen, I'm done with that. That was my past. So I guess we shouldn't really judge people and just respect each other. But certain things I would like to know only because of my previous, I'm retired, and things that I've done. There are certain things that I do have to know, especially when it comes to your history of, being a criminal. I don't think that that's something that I would want a person to hide from me. So certain things should be told out of the respect of your partner.
Thank you. So I had a question, and let's see how we kind of think what y'all think about this. I know we were talking about GC had said, he doesn't think women would want to deal with that or wouldn't deal with that if their man had had a experience. But what if the experience was not willful? What if there was some trauma and he shared that with you as his partner? Would that make would it make a difference if it was an abuse situation versus a willful act?
That's a good question for the women.
Dr.
Would they
Rachel,
view it differently?
Preeti, what y'all think?
Dr. Anderson, Prezi, would you view it differently if the guy had a voluntary relationship with another man, or if he says, hey, when I was younger, I was molested by my auntie's boyfriend, or,
Yeah, I would. Yeah. And then I would, if he was forced or abused, I would definitely ask him, have you gone to therapy? Would you like for me to go with you? I would definitely be by his side with a situation like that. And even the other way, I just talked to him, well, how you feel about it now? Are you done with that? Or blah, blah, blah. But the abuse thing, I would definitely support him. There's no question.
I want
That's
to,
hard. That's hard.
okay, going back to the black, and this is something that I often tease guys about because I know how a lot of men feel about their women's past. And, I'll make little comments and jokes about it. But for some reason, I've never been that person to worry about, you know, to worry about a woman's past. I'm more concerned with whether or not they're lying about something to me. So if you feel you have to lie, just don't say anything at all. But it's funny when you mentioned the homecoming part because every time when you go to homecoming in college or high school, and I can't say all men are all women, but I think going back to what Deborah said, because we are viewed differently, men might deny their past sexual activities out of respect for the person they did it with, because they don't want to be labeled as someone who talks their business. And some women deny it because of the way it makes them look. And as a result, when you go to homecoming, it's not a bad thing if you go to homecoming, ladies, with your significant other and you're looking around, oh, I guess I was one of your little girlfriends, or I saw how such and such was looking at you, we'll laugh it off, talk about it in the car. Okay, yeah, we dated. But for men, I've noticed that a lot of women will deny having slept with certain men or multiple men. And I think that is a bigger problem than just saying, hey, I had a phase or XYZ versus, oh no, I never slept with him. He tried to get with me, blah, blah, blah. And then later on they find out, oh man, you lied. You did deal with this person or those people. I think that kind of creates a bigger problem in itself. And I'm wondering, Black, I want to hear from you. What is it that you don't want to know? Like, you got married as an adult. Your wife was beyond the age of 40. So we know that, we aren't virgins at this time. So what is it that you're afraid to know about a person's past? Or what would you not want to know?
So I think for me, one of the first mistakes that I made in a previous relationship, which I'll probably never do again, is to ask body counts. I don't even know why I asked that. But I was younger, and we had one of those open moments. And again, that's probably one of those questions that I didn't want to know, because I respect them for being honest.
Well,
But then a roundhouse kicked me in the face. I'm like,
what was the count?
You don't have to give the exact number.
I know I was going to fit Tavana. No, wait. When you get done, I want Tavana to give you the formula. So what was the count that you gave?
Oh, yeah. Just give a close number. Don't give...
No, so the count, I think the count to me was like 20, 21. But here's how she broke it down.
Times how much?
Time 5.
This is how she broke it down, though, right? She said at this point in time, she was about 35, and she started at 16. So she says, if you do about like 2 guys a year, every 6 months, and you're not married, or these were all relationships I was dating, then that's not that bad. Some was once a year, some was twice a year, and I was like, man, 20-some odd years old. But
and that's why women they're not honest, because of that nature of using that term, and that's why they're not honest.
You're right, but and I should have never asked the question. That's the first thing.
But you also shouldn't have said you a hoe either. So
well, no, it was in my mind. Nah, I never.
You
said
shouldn't have thought it either, because again, it's kind of a double standard. Because I'm sure that 20 number is pales in comparison to your number. So I still don't think it's like, you know what I mean? Like, is it really that bad of a number?
And so again, when y'all say the ×5 point, I'm like, man, you fuck with the numbers. But all in all, I was younger, and that's a question that I shouldn't ask, and that's a question that I probably won't ever ask again.
Well, you should have, because you wanted to know. So there's nothing wrong with communicating. You wanted to know. But I think that knowing, did it change the way you felt for her as a person?
Early on it did, because the one thing that she said, and it again, another blow, because it was blows being just given. She said, I usually have sex with a guy within 2 weeks, because I know what I want, and I'm not going to wait around and do all this, because I want it just as bad as he did. When I first start talking to you, in my first 5-10 minutes, I know if I want to take it there with you or not. So I was like, well, shit, I waited 7 months. What was up with that? And she thought it was a setup, because she slept with 2 of my homeboys as well, too. Her being honest. So again, that was another flag for me. Next time, boy, just shut up and let it go. Right? So that, but.
Right. And those are the things that come up too, right? You find out about people you didn't necessarily know or think, or, you know what I'm saying? Because they didn't know that y'all was friends. They didn't know that. They could be 15 years apart. How, there's no way to know that.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah. So
I definitely had that happen before. So,
yeah. So currently, going back to the question, phew.
What we did say, if we're out And if we see something or we see someone, we don't make sure we
Oh yeah,
pull each other to the side and make sure we're communicating, what's going on or what happened. So you won't feel like somebody is up on you. And
definitely, definitely.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that one. I don't
definitely.
like that. I don't want to be standing ta-ta.
Right.
She done
Right.
seen all your goodies. Like, I need to know
Right.
that. Like, yeah.
so we want to protect.
Not that I'm a care, but
Yeah.
I don't want, I like to know stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We did discuss that early on.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I never.
respect, me in that way. I would say something like that as well. But like, I've been around people like, okay, that's who you dated in high school. That's who you slept with in college. That's who you fooled around with. Hey, we run in some of the same circles. If we went to high school together, obviously I'm going to be around these people. If we went to college together, chances are I'm going to be around some of these people. If you've slept with the bros before, right? Hey, as long as I'm not being disrespected, it is what it is. I think that comes with the territory. And the older we get, the more likely we are to bump heads with someone else or deal with someone who's dealt with
Absolutely.
multiple people. Yeah, we are 19 years old, 20 or 17-year-old freshmen in college, meeting someone for the first time. By the time we've met, and especially when we have children, so I have kids. So obviously I've slept with at least a certain number of people to produce these children.
Was that 5? Shoshan? Wow.
So
Sorry. That's
I
5.
might have been with 5 people in my life.
Okay.
So now, with that being said, I really do know, and I'm being honest. I feel like, and this is how my dad always broke it down to me, man. You don't worry about that. You make sure that the experience the person has with you is unique and the most important thing to them at that time. And that's all I can ask for. But this is funny, man, hearing the body count. The body count.
Well, and the thing is, I think you made a good point about the older we get, right? And I think
Yes.
Geechee did a good job also of the math, right? You take a man or woman who may have started at 18, they're almost 50 now. If you ask them at 50 their number and they say 20, I'm gonna need you to multiply, divide, subtract, and add because it really ain't that bad when you look at the almost 30-year span, you know what I'm saying? Of time.
Right.
So I think people for whatever reason, that number sometimes affects people. And I think like where this post and topic came from was the Diddy trial, right? And I think Geechee, correct me if I'm wrong, they were saying that Cassie's husband, they felt kind of sorry for him that he had to sit there and listen to all of that. You know what I'm saying? Now, do I think this is the first time he heard it in court? Absolutely not. I'm sure he and his wife, you know what I'm saying, have discussed these things. But even if it was, like you say, what is he gonna do? Go file for divorce? Like you know what I'm saying? Because again, this was before him. So what
And
can
she has
he
30
really
million.
do?
That's
Well, and she got that too. That
yeah,
part.
she got that 30 million. That might help them stick around. But that is a good example as to why the body count doesn't matter. Because you could
Right.
have been with
Body count don't sound high. It's like what she was doing with these
people.
6-7
So
people. Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you could have had
25 and ain't done none of that and had 2 and just done
and
being
did it
off the
all.
chain.
Exactly. And
Right.
imagine like your girl said, Black, imagine if a woman really, she's a caring, loving person, but just dealt with some guys who were terrible people. And immediately when she found out they were not for her, hey, I'm going to end this. And she meets someone else. And over time, but she may have been with 10, 15 men who treated her with respect. Everything was nice. Or might have been with these 2 men who urinated in her mouth, put feces on top of her head and all this crazy stuff. So the body count, really doesn't matter when it comes to that.
Oh my God, the way I hollered. So we got something in the chat from Andre Mulligan. He said, oh God, where did it go? Oh, if your number is too low, that's a problem for me.
Think they're lying.
Could be lying. But and I think Koshan had a good point too. And Gishi, when he said, something about somebody saying that she knows within the first however long what she wants, and she usually gets it done and over with within the first 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Because again, some people feel like, yo, this is important to me and I don't want to wait. You know what I mean? And then it's garbage. So let's go. And maybe it was garbage. So now, dang, another notch, but gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Because it was garbage. So I think there's so many things that can lend a hand to these quote unquote body counts. You know what I mean? And I think it's important too that maybe, not, I guess some people kind of hold back what they say, but like you said, you don't know everybody in her family when you first meet her. You know what I'm saying? You don't know everybody in his family. You don't know all of their closest or close acquaintances, old roommate. You just never know who somebody else knows. You can have people in common. There's 6 degrees of separation, they say. You know what I mean? So yeah, you might be into this person, and then 3-4 months in, you go to the cookout, and it's like, whoa, that's your second cousin. It's like, hey, we gotta talk. You know what I'm saying? And what do you do?
I don't care about that stuff. It's like, okay, y'all dealt with each other. So be it, is what it is, you know, because I don't even, honestly, I would have to sit back and calculate to think of a body count. And it's not important. What's important is the person I'm with now, what we have, what we're working on, and whatever was in the past is in the past. Now, like you said, if there are some traumatic experiences, some people don't want to share those things. And, it's some people really can't empathize with them if they never experienced it. And then, like, what do you do? And you have to understand the impact of that. I dated a young lady and I was like, man, I thought she was loose. And then after we got older and both matured, and she talked to me about some childhood trauma, some very traumatic experiences. And then it made me think about the impact it had on her and how it influenced the way she was. Not that I wouldn't even say it's an excuse, but I think that those things, and then you can't share it with everyone, because what if it's not a lasting relationship? Now you've shared all of your childhood traumatic experiences or your childhood secrets with someone who you're no longer with. So you have to get to the point where you can open up with someone.
Well, I don't know. I think that if you've had sexual trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and if you think that this person, even for short or long term, not like one night, you know what I mean? But I think it's important for them to understand, because what sexual trauma does to you, there's always going to be triggers, right? And the person that you're with and that you're engaging, they need to know if they're tripping your triggers. And the only way for them to know that is for you to tell them. Because if not, you're going to probably be suffering through some things, in silence, sort of like what you posted today that we were talking about. It's a lot of things that can make somebody react the way that they do.
Right.
And the other person needs to understand that. If every time you touch her a certain way, she might freeze up for a second. You know what I'm saying? And you notice it, but you don't say anything, and she doesn't say anything. But then it might be like, well, no, now I don't want. You see what I'm saying? So and now it's impacting what you're doing right now. That person needs to know what's going on.
Well, Geechee, I want to know, you said you feel sorry for Cassie's husband. Tell me, why do you feel sorry for him?
Definitely. It's one thing to know that she's done all of this and y'all had y'all talks in the privacy of your home. But it's another thing to hear it publicly. You hear it in the court of law. You got all these reporters, you got all these news media and things like that. You gotta be a strong person to actually sit there and hear these things, like you're hearing that she got urinated on. You're hearing that, multiple men came and had the freak off. So as a man, even though you know it, I don't think any man can just sit there and be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. She told me about it before. You're going to have feelings. You know, we're human, right? And it is not the part that he didn't know is, man, I gotta hear this. Not only do I have to hear this now, I'm gonna have to hear this as long as this trial is going. I'm gonna have to hear it after the trial. You can't be on social media because it's all over that. So it just takes that type of comfort with yourself to be able to deal with that, you know. So yeah, I truly do feel sorry for him. Not only him, kids, you know, they have to hear that as well too, man. You know, this is something that she's gonna have to wear. She got to walk in her truth, you know, and I know that's hard for him. And man, he's gonna need therapy. that's he definitely gonna. That's a whole lot. And again, we're talking about your past and everything like that, but I'm sitting there, and yes, me and my wife had our pillow talks and everything like that, but now we're in the courtroom of 20 to maybe 75 people, and these things are being elaborated play by play. You're having the masked men or the escorts that are coming in. And you know, sometimes we have our conversations, it just may be like, they may have been like, yeah, you know, did he have me slept with a couple of men, these freak offs and things like that. But now all these men are coming to the stand and saying in details, yeah, I put it in every hole in the body and all this and that. Man, that's tough. That's tough. I
I
think for
think
me,
I'm not a man, but I think
Mhm.
wouldn't it be only tough if you hadn't heard it already? Like I understand what you're saying about the public perception, but I don't see like why it would be hard for him to hear it again after he's already heard it from her. Because it's not like they've been married a year, right? They've been married a long time. They were married before the $30 million, before the hotel thing was leaked, right? So I'm pretty sure he's heard darn near everything. And preparing for the trial and all of that kind of stuff, they knew what was going to be said. So is it more so the court of public opinion that you think
so
is the
let me
issue?
put it in a different perspective, right? And something that we just talked about. I love my wife, and she told me about her trauma being molested at a young age, right? And we've talked about that. Cool.
Mhm.
Now we're in the court, and the man who molested her is coming out telling play by play the details of what he did. Because I love her, that is going to affect me to actually hear it from someone else or the actual person who did these things. Yes, we've talked about it before and I heard it, but now I want to rip them apart. You know what I mean? And with him, and I can't be in his shoes, but I love my wife. The lawyers prep me for these things, but there are certain things that may come out in that court that we weren't ready for. And me hearing it play by play, like this man really terrorized and abused my wife. Like he did her dirty, and I can't help but feel some kind of way because I love her. This is my wife. You know what I mean? And I feel you, Drake. I'd stay home too. Hey, baby, you got it. You need. I'm gonna support you from here because if I go in there, I'm getting arrested, man. I'm gonna choke somebody.
Okay, I see what you're saying, man. I see what that angle. Got it. And I think that it is tough to have to deal with past things and but I think that you have to it's just something that I don't know, like you're gonna have to deal with. And I know I would personally want to know beforehand. I probably didn't want to hear it like you saying, but I would want to know beforehand before I heard it from someone else, like just flat out. Like I could imagine him never have hearing this stuff. That would probably be hard. But to sit in their presence, I do see what you're saying. That's probably a different level of strength to have to control yourself
I
than
guess
hearing it at the house.
I have negative thoughts from the beginning. So I've heard people lie a lot of times. I've done things I know I should not have done. I've seen people lie about things that they have done. So I think that I'm always thinking the worst anyway. Probably not as detailed as what happened with those freak offs. That's bizarre, right? But as far as me being shocked or surprised, I'm just used to people lying about things that they've done in the past. And a lot of people try to make themselves look good or not look as bad as the situation was. Even if they talk about having intercourse with someone else, they make it look like, oh, yeah, we dated. This was someone I hung out with. And then the reality was, oh, this was someone you got drunk at a club. Your girl was asleep with his boy and they knocked you off in a car somewhere. Ain't talked to you again, you know? So I never, well, I can't say never, but I rarely believe the way a story is described to me because I'm going to form my own opinion. And it could be wrong. I could be overly pessimistic, but I'm never shocked at the things that people do because I've seen so many things happen and I've seen people lie about the things that have happened. But that's something, man.
Well, we talk about that all the time about, the transparency and honesty. A lot, it's really hard to get, right? If you have someone in your life that's transparent with you, that's honest with you, keep them, right? Because you got a rare one. Because most people are gonna lie, right? And we've talked about the reasons for lying. We've had
right.
different guests on here, counselors, things like that, and it all comes back to, you know, those things like that
Yeah.
fear, that guilt, and that shame. And when you have one of those things alone working, it makes it hard to tell the truth. But God forbid you have multiple or all three working at the same time. It's in you're gonna be hard pressed to get somebody to tell the truth. So because everybody wants the outcome that they want, right? You don't want you want to be able to say what you want to say and get the outcome you want. But you know that once you give that truth, it's not up to you how that other person responds. And so that's what I think it makes it difficult.
Damon just sent a message, everyone. He said, let everyone know that he's down in Jacksonville at a jazz festival. And he's going to miss this week's show, but tell everyone he said hello.
Hey, Damon.
Yes. He'll try to listen in to the playback. But so, ladies, I want to know, is there some, because this is important. Like, when do you share information? Well, ladies and men, when do you start sharing information? Because if you share too soon, it's like, why did I even tell them all these things that we aren't even together?
I don't feel like that. Like, I honestly let the conversation flow. You know what I'm saying? I don't try to keep anything away. I don't try to overshare. I just let it flow. You know what I'm saying? And if we start talking about certain topics, I'm not gonna pull back. You know what I'm saying? Because this might be date number 2, because we talked about this before too. This is when all this stuff needs to be talked about. And that's the problem, because it's you wait until you think you should wait until you're 6 months in, and now you're sitting here with all these feelings for somebody. Now you're just now learning things about them that may be favorable, may not be. You know what I'm saying? So we talked about that before, about like, who cares about your favorite color and all that other kind of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? That's not what's important. We need to be talking about the real stuff up front.
I don't know so I see you guys responding to Andre, but for some reason I can't see anything that Andre's typing.
He said have strategic communication if you want to care for your feelings.
Okay. So with that, I believe it's a maturity thing. And for men, it's about where you want this to go. Like, if we're just dating and I don't see nothing going on with this and it's just a smash, then I don't care about how you deal with finances and stuff like that, because it's just a smash. But if it's something that I really want to go forward with, and I'm feeling like, okay, you're that one, then yeah, we're going to talk about certain things up front. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to overshare until I feel like we're there. So with men, I'll tell you the thing about men, right? We are, I ain't gonna say we. I'm gonna say the majority of us because I can't speak for every man on here. But we're somewhat afraid to be vulnerable because of what we've dealt with in life. And also, we're afraid that if this does not work, then you've just given that person ammunition to either come back at you or use it when they're upset, things like that. We don't know that. We don't know how to get. Now you might let it all out and stuff like that. So
Well, Sean gave the clap,
it comes
Geechee,
time.
because he gave the clap because he has said that numerous times on here. So to have
Numerous
someone
times.
new to come on and confirm for him, he
That
had to
has
give the
been
clap.
the topic of a couple of discussions where women weaponize our secrets. So men are very reluctant. A lot of men are reluctant, and they try their best to, oh, he needs to be emotionally intelligent enough, or he needs to be mature. Say what you want to call it. We aren't trying to sit there and share these things because even if it was a traumatic experience, as soon as these women get angry, they throw it up at the man. They weaponize your secrets. They weaponize it, throw it in your face, and say different things about you all the time. Girlfriend, boyfriend, husbands. I've seen spouses do it. I've seen women. I got a cousin of mine. They were engaged. Everything was great. As soon as they had a disagreement, she's on social media talking about how he used to like her to put the dildo in his butt. And I'm like, listen, you cannot do that. You should not have done that. And I've seen women talk about he said, Dad, I've seen, and this is a street gangster out of Charleston, right? But I've seen women talk about vulnerable things that men have shared with them as soon as they get upset. And if a person trusts you enough to share those things, respect them enough to bury it when you bury the relationship. But the problem is that hurt people like to hurt other people. And in a lot of instances, men are more physically dominant. So the way that women can hurt them, she's not going to walk up to him and punch him. But the way to hurt him is to share his deepest and darkest secrets. And for that reason, a lot of men just choose not to share things. And there are no benefits. I always say to us, how does it benefit the man? How does it benefit him? And every reason that has been given ties back to the woman benefiting from it. And I'll ask again, how does it benefit the man from sharing these secrets that he may have had? Ladies, tell me.
I think it depends on the man. I mean, if you're the type of man who values the relationship, and you have a good woman who will not weaponize it, I think the benefit can be, that Mm-mm. That you have a woman who is going to be there, who is going to understand, who can. I think it's just to understand it. I would think that would be a benefit, but maybe not. Like, to know that you should be vulnerable, to feel safe. I think all of that comes into play as a benefit on both sides. But I guess if the person doesn't see it as a benefit, then it really doesn't matter.
Right. Because you mentioned woman 3 times in your example and still no direct benefit to the man. How does it benefit him? And does the reward outweigh the risk?
Yeah. So I think the benefit to the man is him being able to feel emotionally safe and be emotionally vulnerable. That is a benefit for a man to be able to do that. And so
Being
if you're
emotionally
willing,
vulnerable is a benefit to the man?
yes, because how
How's
else
that?
because how else are you really connecting with your partner if you can't be emotionally vulnerable? You're not really, if you can't do that, then you're not really connecting with me.
That's not the desire of the man. That's the desire of the woman. So men are
No,
connected all the time without being
that's just
vulnerable.
needed in a relationship. That's needed if you really want to experience a deep connection with someone. Both partners have to be willing to be emotionally vulnerable and open, right? And you can only do that if you feel safe enough to do so. And so, yes, it is a benefit to both a man and a woman to be able to do that and have that with someone else. And so if you're willing to take that risk and the reward is you get a person that is 100% understanding of that on the other side and provide you with that safe space to be exactly who you need to be, then yes, the reward is damn well worth it.
Need to be,
I
according
just
to who?
said that. So how come Koshan ain't hear that when I said it? Deborah said,
Girl,
Because,
yeah,
but
change the
because
number.
he ain't trying to hear it when I'm saying it.
no, I heard you. But what y'all both didn't hear, she mentioned the word woman twice. Again, bringing it back to
Just because you heard, no, she didn't bring it back. She just said the benefit for him is to have a safe space. That the woman is providing the safe space, but the
and
benefit is for him to have a safe space. Probably one that he's never had before.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
so
Allowing
I
him a
think that's the
moment to
benefit.
feel that,
so
to know what
sharing
that's like.
those things does not automatically provide a safe space for him.
No, the safe space came before he shared it because you have to be safe to
So
even
again,
share it.
how does that benefit the man by sharing those things?
It gives him
Coach,
a
are you
connection
hearing
to
us?
his partner.
Yeah,
It
you
gives
heard
him,
what you said. Like sharing it doesn't make you a safe space
it
because what he
does.
talked about.
Because you wouldn't even share it if you didn't feel safe. Correct? Would you share it if you didn't feel safe?
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So how is sharing benefiting him? And the reason men don't share is because the space that they really thought was a safe space and may have been at the time turned out not to be as soon as the woman got upset, as soon as
So
something happened in a
that's
relationship.
the benefit,
But that's
Coach.
another, but that's what I'm saying. So here's the thing, and I see where you're going with this. But
So then
what you're talking
the
about,
question
no, what
remains.
you're talking about, no, what you're talking about now
Mhm.
is holding another person accountable for what somebody else did. That's what you're talking about right now. Because if you were vulnerable with this woman and then she used it to criminalize it and use it against you later, now you have 5 years later this amazing woman who
Would
won't
never
do
do
that,
that to
but you
you.
don't know that because you're still traumatized by the first one. What I'm saying is the benefit is being safe and feeling safe and being able to be vulnerable to know this particular person is not going to do that. But as long as you're still holding on to what somebody else did, you're not giving that other person a fair shake.
I get all that part, but we still have not pointed out a benefit to the man for doing it. And like you said, I agree. He is holding you
So you don't think
responsible for what someone
you
else
don't
did.
think
I agree.
your safety and your vulnerability is not a benefit? To feel safe and to feel like you can be vulnerable is not a benefit? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying. Because you
That's
keep
What I'm
asking what
exactly
the
saying
what it
is,
benefit.
sounds like you're saying,
Yeah,
Coach.
because you
again,
keep asking what the benefit is, and we're telling you what the benefit
but
is. But if you don't
you've
think
never said a
the benefit,
benefit. What you're saying is women, 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 and the woman being there for him and him trusting this woman and her providing is what the
that's not
women
what I
want.
said. That's not what I said.
No.
Okay.
So
Well,
okay, so hold on,
Kiki, did
Savannah.
you
we'll,
hear
Let
what
me
I
say
said?
this. Hold on, let
I'll
me say
agree to
this,
disagree on
Savannah.
this one. We'll agree to
Let me
disagree,
say this,
but
Savannah.
the
Let me
point
say
is
this. Okay.
men still do not share for some whatever reason. Men still choose not to for whatever that reason is. And there are many instances where, okay, Black gave an example when he talked about Remy and Papoose. And he was loyal to Remy for years. As soon as she gets upset, what does she do? Attempts to expose him. The results of being vulnerable. And it's
Right,
happened
but
time after time after time after time with local people, with celebrities. It's just something that happens. It's a common pattern for a lot of women. I don't say all, but it is a common pattern for a lot of women to expose secrets of men. So men just choose not to disclose certain
right there though,
information.
Coach Sean, right there what you just said, right?
Hmm.
It is a common pattern for it to happen. So why would it not be a benefit to be able to find someone that is not in that common pattern, right? That does not display any parts of that common pattern and allows you to actually be vulnerable and be safe. And the benefit to you is that you can actually open up to someone else emotionally and really know what it feels like to get deep
Deborah,
and really and have that connection. That is your
Deborah,
benefit.
Deborah, all of that happened. That's how it got exposed. Everything that you're saying is what a man did. Had he not done that, these women would have not known his secrets to be
Right,
able to
With
but you didn't
weaponize it.
choose the
another
right woman to do
woman.
it with.
Right. That's all that
You
is.
didn't
Okay,
choose the right
you
woman
don't
to
think
do it
she was the right
with.
one at the time?
So Coach
Nobody
Sean, let
knew
me ask you this.
that she
Hold on,
would
let me
do
ask you
that
this.
until she did it. No
Let
one
me
knew
ask
that
you
the
this.
woman would do it until she did it.
Right,
I'm
but Coach
sure
Sean, let me ask
she
you this. Let
all
me give you
said,
a
baby,
prime
I was
example.
just
I
about,
love you,
hey,
baby.
y'all.
You
So,
can trust
no,
me.
no. Andre just said the key word trauma. That's what that is. What you're describing is trauma, Coach Sean.
Right.
You're holding another person hostage to what someone else did to you. And that's not fair. It's not
And
fair.
and let me say this, Coach Sean. I'm
I
gonna give
can't
you
see
a
what
prime
Andre is
example.
typing for some reason.
Hold on,
He
Coach Sean.
put, he said trauma. He said that's trauma. He
But
said
but
that's
right.
trauma.
Let me tell you this. Let me just say this real quick. Coach Sean, that's like saying just because I got my heart broken, right? So someone took my heart, put it in the blender, grinded it up, stepped on it, and now I'm on the bottom of their shoe, right? That's like me saying I ain't never gonna love nobody ever again. I'm
No, no,
never
no.
like
We're talking about
hold on. It
specifics.
is the same.
You're over.
It's
No,
the,
it's not. You're
it is.
overgeneralizing. No, you're
No, I'm not.
overgeneralizing. What we're saying
No, I'm
is
not.
something specific. Let's say this: if you let a dude drop you off to work all the time, and he goes around and picks another chick up, and they having sex in your car, that doesn't mean you never get into another relationship again. But the specifics of letting a man drop you off and taking your car, you're going to look at that differently. So I'm not saying not being in a relationship. I'm talking about specifically sharing secrets. That's all we're talking about, not relationships. People
Well,
get
even in
married.
that example, no, even in that example, Coach Sean, that woman would be holding what another man did to her against this new man, and it's still not fair. So,
I didn't say it's
anytime you
fair.
go
We're
into,
saying it happens and why it does happen. And do you
but
blame her?
but
I would
yeah,
understand if that
I do.
happened.
No, I can understand it, but I
Yeah,
think
I
that she
understand it.
needs to figure out a way to not make this man pay for what somebody else did. It's not his fault.
But I
Go and process through your trauma then, because that's your trauma is not on him. He didn't do it.
But I think all life experiences, some are meant for us to learn from. And hey, it changes who we are. If someone did that to a woman and I understood that, I'd be like, you know what? I get it. I'm not dropping you off to work. I get that. I understand what you've been through. You can go to counseling for 15 years. That won't change the way you feel or say, okay, now I'm ready for somebody to drop me off again. No, that's something that I've experienced. I've learned. That's something I'll never go through again. And we can
So
move
how is
forward.
that? So how is that any different than you telling me, okay, I confided in a woman, I was emotionally vulnerable with a woman in the past, and she threw it back in my face. How is that any different than me then being able to say, I understand that,
That's my
right? I
point. I'm
understand that,
saying
but
that's my
that's
point.
not something that I would ever do or a way that I would ever be. So you don't got to worry about that here.
But
You
see,
get
I'm
what
not
I'm
going to do
saying?
that. That's what I'm saying. I never said I'm going to go to her and say, "Oh, I'm not that guy. You can let me drop you off to work." No, I said I will understand it. I understand that that is what she's been through. I understand how she feels, and I'm not going to ask her to let me drop her off to work and cruise around in her car all day. I understand that. So, but it's so hard for some women to understand that men just choose not to do that because it has been weaponized in too many instances. And there's no benefit to the man. So that's just a point that we will not do. We'll share some things, but some things you just won't know.
I think Prezi in the chat said therapy is needed for any trauma so that you don't give it to other people. And that's what this whole conversation, that's what this is. This is
Mhm.
unhealed, unresolved trauma that you passing around from person to person. Because you cannot hold another person hostage to something that happened in your past. They weren't even there. They weren't even around. They probably didn't even know you existed on the planet when that happened. So why, now that they have come into your life, do they have to suffer for that? Shouldn't be
But
that.
I said they can go through trauma. I mean, they can go through therapy. I said that they can go through all the therapy in the world. There's some things that's just like if a child was kidnapped walking home from practice by themselves. You can go through therapy. They were found. They can go through therapy. Does that mean, oh, let's go ahead and start back letting kids walk alone now because they went through therapy? No, some experiences you learn from, and now you move differently. That's all I'm saying. Therapy doesn't mean you repeat the same things. You learn how to deal with what has happened to you. Doesn't mean you go through it all over again. Okay, this child was molested by my auntie's boyfriend. We went through therapy. Does that mean that I let my next child spend the night at the same auntie's house? We're not going to do that again. We've lived it, we've experienced it, and we've learned from it. So now we're moving differently. And okay, and she said your trust level will definitely change, and it will. And it depends on the situation what you went through. Yeah, people wear masks and eventually fall off. I would like to hear what you have to say, Preezy, and only because we have listeners who are unable to see what you all are typing. And Andre, that's why I'm requesting you as a speaker as well, because I cannot see what you're typing and the listeners cannot see it as well. Go ahead.
I didn't want to talk over you guys,
Go
but
ahead.
I think that if somebody does you wrong, you do carry that. It's impossible for you not to. It's easy for us to say, well, you shouldn't give it to the next person. That's hard because now you have to build up that trust again. Once you lose that trust, it is hard. It's really hard to get it back. So now you're going to be a little bit more cautious with the next person. Not that they did anything to you, but maybe you start thinking to yourself, well, I know I did this. Next time, maybe I won't do it that way. And so it's not like you're trying to, you're dissing the person, the new person, but you're being a little bit more cautious now. And I think we all done that in relationships. The example you gave with giving the boyfriend the keys to the car. And because he did this, now the next person you deal with, well, I'm not going to give my keys because I remember last time I gave my keys, this happened. We all do that. We've done that. And it's not that you are not going to give them the keys, but maybe you won't be so freely to give the keys. You're going to do things different. And I think that's just how it is in every relationship. But I don't think that people should let their past take over their future, meaning that whatever went on with your past, it could have been traumatic. You got to get help for it. You got to get therapy for it because you will take that to the next person. People carry bags. They got suitcases they carry it, and they're bringing it to the next person, and it's not fair. That's why when you break up from a relationship, you need time by yourself because you have to heal from what you went through in that last relationship. People are leaving one relationship and you're jumping into the next. Why? Because you're trying to fill that void. And it's wrong. You need to take time out for yourself because you could have been the problem too. So now this is the time for you to work on yourself and heal. And so that you don't bring whatever you did in your relationship to this next person because it's not fair. And have we done it? I'm pretty sure we all have done it. It's not right. So you need to heal. And when I talk on my show, I tell everybody it's all about self-love. You have to fix you before you can, and you have to love yourself before you can love anybody else. Because you can't love everybody or anybody if you're not loving yourself. And you have to take the time to heal before you move on. Because you will bring that baggage to that next person.
I want to chime in on that topic right there. When we talk about the healing piece, what's I guess an expected time frame on that when you say that you need time to heal?
There is no time frame. Only you will know. Everybody has their own time frame. It could be 6 months for me. It could be a year for you. It doesn't matter. It's when you inside, when you feel like you're good. Okay, I'm over this girl. I'm over this guy. I'm good. I'm getting myself together. I'm doing the things that I need to do that I didn't do. So everybody has a time frame. It could be 2, 3, 4 years before you realize, hey, I'm ready to go back out there. Maybe there's some things that you need to take care in your life that you didn't do when you was with this so-called person. So everybody has their own time, but you need to fix you, because 9 times out of 10, we all know our flaws. We could play around and say we don't. We know our flaws. We know the things that we do is wrong. We play around like, oh, that ain't me. That ain't me. You know what you do. So that time you need to take for yourself and fix you. Because it's not fair that you're going through something from your past and I got to deal with it. Oh, you hear people say, oh, you act just like my ex. You do just like, that means you're not over it. If you got to keep pointing it out that and no woman want to hear that and no man want to hear that. Don't ever compare me to your ex. That means you ain't fixed. So who wants to deal with that? Take the time for yourself and heal. Do the things that you needed to do or you have to do. It is no time frame. Just like there's no time frame for grieving. It could take years for a person to grieve over somebody that they lost in death. There is no time frame. Only you know when you're ready.
Great. So what happens when that person that you're dealing with throughout whatever I don't want to say grief or trauma, what happens when that person allows you to heal? So I got to speak for me, right? And be totally transparent. My relationship was over for me in 2022. I got separated in 2023. I got married again in 2024, right? A lot of people would be like, you didn't give yourself time enough to heal or blah, blah, blah. But again, they didn't know me or how I was feeling or what I was going through. And throughout that process of separation and everything, I found her. I found her. It wasn't a rebound. We spoke about a lot of these things. We were going through a lot of the same things of that nature, what made that process that much easier. And then when we spoke about age range, I know what I want. She knew what she wanted, and we moved forward with it. And again, yes, there's things that you have to ask yourself and make sure that you don't bring into this new relationship. That's why a lot of our conversations were very open and very honest, about flaws. I like how Ty said earlier. I care about your favorite color, but not really. I care more so about you, your 30, 60, 90. I hate to be like that, but I'm corporate. Your 3-year plan, your 5-year plan, finances, things like that, triggers, stuff like that. Because my wife and I, we do have a lot of couple sessions as well too. And we ask couples, well, do you know his trigger? Does she know your trigger? And a lot of them be like, nah, we never really had that conversation, which you should have that, because if you do know that, those are the type of things that you stay away from, or you try your best to stay away from. We say be comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations, because those are going to arise. But yeah, I was intrigued about the healing part, because you're right. It does depend on the person and the time frame. A lot of people think it takes a year, 2, 3, things like that. No, you know when you're ready, and you give it your all. You bring those things from the last relationship and make sure that you don't bring it into this one, or you learn from them, stuff like that. But again, that was an interesting topic, so I want to jump on that.
And a lot of people, real quick, I'm going to say this. A lot of people, I think it's bad when you can't be by yourself. Because a lot of people today, I know a few of my friends, they got to have somebody. And I think that's bad, because my thing is, you want somebody so bad, that means you'll subject yourself to anything and everything just to have them. You'll deal with a lot of crap just to have them. And I think a lot of times we need to just take time out for ourselves. Let's find ourselves. Find out what you like. Find out what you need to fix and improve in your life. Maybe there's changes that you need to make. So everybody needs that me time. You need that space. Because a lot of times, listen, we may not realize, but we are part of the things that may go wrong in our relationship. You can't just say it's just one person. That it might be one that might do a little bit more, but everybody plays their part. And so that's why I don't understand how people just can't just take that time to be by themselves. Why do you jump from person to person like that? You're not fixing you, because you're part of the problem too. It takes two. Your story, my story, then the truth. So there are people out here that want to fill that void. They don't want to be alone. And they're not, they're just getting this, it's like a recycle over and over again. And then they're wondering why they can't find true love. It's because you keep getting the same thing over and over again. You're not fixing yourself. You keep getting the same type of person. Maybe it's you.
And that's true.
Thinking
I think
sometimes,
that journey to your authenticity is definitely a journey you have to take. You know, you have to be able to know and understand yourself. You have to be able to know what you need, know what you want, know what you like, know what you don't like. And like Geechee said, a lot of times people get out of relationships and the public perception, people get caught up in that public perception, right? Like it doesn't matter to me what hundreds of people think or feel about my timeline, right? Because like he said, his marriage was over for him before he even got separated, right? So I'm pretty sure some of his healing was already starting to take place. And so by the time he got to the separation, got through the year of divorce and all this, and he had met his wife and da 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 da, he was good. Right. But because everybody doesn't see you doing the work, they don't see you doing, you know what I'm saying? Then you get this clutch your pearls like, oh my God, didn't they just get divorced? Okay, but you don't know what I've done. You don't know the work that I've done. You don't know what I've been doing in the background for the past 2 years or whatever, just because it's not public knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think you have to. And then some people just process quicker than others. Some people can process through grief quicker. Some people can process through heartbreak quicker. Some people, you know, they go through a breakup and they can't function for 5, 6 years. And then you got some people who are like, after 6 months, okay, whew, that's good. I'm good. You see what I'm saying? So it is a very personal thing. But unfortunately, we live in a society where the court of public opinion seems to matter too much.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Public opinion
I
or
feel like a lot of
reality.
people, like you mentally leave, a lot of people will mentally leave a relationship before they physically will. And the only way that that doesn't happen is when, and when one party has no clue that the other party is in that space where they've already mentally checked out and they're already gone. And so they ended. And then you're just left like, what just happened? Because you weren't paying attention to what was really going on in your relationship. But most of the time, people will mentally check out before they physically end that relationship.
yeah, I was going to say that last part, Deborah, in some instances where people are caught by surprise, taken off guard, and sometimes
Yeah.
people can kind of overreact to certain things. I've seen relationships end over things that weren't true.
Right.
Someone said this, the person ran with it, and then, hey, relationship is over.
But what good was that relationship really if
Right.
someone making a statement was able to end it, right?
Well, it wasn't just a
And
statement. It might have
really
been
get trust that.
some accusations, and people can lie. I've had, man, I joke about it now. I had a little cousin who wanted to get with this girl, and he paid his little sister $50. They were in high school. He paid his little sister $50 to tell this other girl that she had slept with her boyfriend and they did this and he did that to her and all this stuff, and the girl's upset in a vulnerable state. And she went out with my little cousin. Craziest thing ever. I sat and watched this happen. He paid his little sister $50 to make up this whole story. And the young lady fell for it. So again, I mean, I don't know the strength of their relationship. or what the trust was like. Obviously, she had some trust issues previously if she was able to believe that young lady,
Right. But in
but
high school, we're also not emotionally equipped to, or mentally equipped to really understand, like, maybe I should ask some questions. Maybe I should get to the bottom of this. In high school, a lot of young people are not that mentally advanced to really understand and know, like, I might not be able to take this for face value. Let
That's
me,
subjective, right? Debatable.
you get what I'm saying? So I could understand that being something that happens in high school, but baby, if we not in high school and somebody come tell you something and you don't come to me to address me before you just go making a decision, then for me, this relationship was never worth it to begin with.
That's another conversation. Because when people put bad things into the atmosphere, it's a very powerful thing. And according to what they say, they can destroy people's lives. That's a false witness. That's why bearing false witness is one of the worst things you can do. You can ruin the whole set just by putting the wrong
Right.
lie out there.
But also knowing who you are, authentically knowing who you are. Like, you could say, you could put out there 1,000 things about me, right? But if I know who I am to the core of me, and I know what I am and I am not capable of, then I don't care what you say and I don't care what people believe, because I know who I am. And you're not gonna change my perception of me because I know who I am.
But they can change other people's perception of you by what they say.
I don't care I don't care what nobody else think of me.
People out your
I'm just saying this is the reality to Koshan's point that he's seen things being said that cause, certain things to happen in a relationship just to stay on
Right.
theme.
Right. But again, you got to be self-aware and you got to know who you are so that you can stand strong in these moments where someone might be defaming your character or you know what I'm saying? I could tell you 1,000 times I didn't do it, but that's not going to stop you from believing it. And why should I have to sit here and defend my character against something that I know I did not do? I'm not finna do that. I'm gonna
But
let you
who's to
believe
blame if
what you
somebody
want to believe, and I'm gonna move on accordingly how I need to move.
who's more at blame, the person that told him that or the significant other that you're with? Suppose it's somebody from your family that told him that.
I mean, they're both to blame. They're to blame for making up the lie, my family member or whoever. But my significant other is to blame for not having the wherewithal to come sit down and have a conversation with me like an adult. And if you know me as my significant other, right? You should be able to say, nah, that don't sound like my wife, or that don't sound like my husband. Let me go talk to them. You get what I'm saying? Like, there has to be
That's fair.
you
Fair.
can't just allow people to tell you anything and you just go, especially when they're telling you something about somebody that you are intimately involved with, whether it's a sibling, a mom, you get what I'm saying? A significant other, whoever.
Yeah.
If I know this
You trying to
person,
say
then I know I know this person. There's nothing
you're
you can
saying
tell
promote
me.
research.
You said what?
You're saying research. You're saying research what somebody say about you. If they say something, then you check and see if what they're saying is legitimate, if it stands the test of
Right.
research.
Right, because when I bring it to
I
you,
agree.
right? If somebody brings something to me, right? And I'm listening to it and I'm like, okay, all right. But when I bring it to you, now during that conversation with you, I'm looking at what you say. I'm looking at what you don't say. I'm looking at how you react to it all. You get what I'm saying? Because then that's going to let me know
how you really feel.
whether or not I need to even be on guard about this or whether I need to be questioning myself or not. Because I'm not going to question what I know of you until I come to you to address it. And your reaction is going to tell me everything I need to know. But you got to be able to pay
Let's
attention, though.
let's say let's say somebody tells you a lie. We're in a relationship. Somebody brings a lie to you. Let's say you're the person that's being lied to, and you ask me about it, and I get offended. You ask me about it, and I say I ain't answering that, and I don't want to talk about that, and I leave it dead. How you gonna move forward?
Why you don't want to talk about it?
That's exactly what
Because it's a lie. Because it's a lie. Hold on now. It was on the other side. Just the other side. You playing the other side. It's a lie. I don't want just
Okay.
lies.
Okay.
Okay.
Why you getting so excited?
I don't want just hold on. You was just on the other foot now. I don't want just lies. Don't bring that to me. You know our relationship. I don't address it.
I didn't say I wouldn't address it, baby. If it's something that I can address
No,
and
no,
I
no, no.
can bring you an understanding about, then I'm gonna do that.
I said I didn't want to address it. I didn't want to address it because I know it was a lie. So let's say it was something pretty big, so to speak, or big to you, and you bring it to me and it's a lie. And I said, I don't even want to talk about that. Don't even ask me that again, period. How you gonna feel about that?
But you would
That's
have
not
to get
admission of
you
guilt.
would have to
That's not
give me a
admission of
little
guilt or
bit
anything.
more. Like, let me
But
know.
listen,
Like,
listen, it's a lie. It's a lie though. It's a lie. I entertaining the lie.
but tell me it's
I
a
already
lie
said I
though.
don't talk
Because
about
if
it no
you
more. If
don't
you
need
care
to
for
tell
me,
me it's
if
a
you care
lie,
for me, you would take that.
listen, hold on. There's a difference in saying,
Now that's
baby,
the same thing you
that's
said.
a
I
lie.
refute.
There's a difference in saying, baby, that's a lie, and
That's
saying
what I'm saying.
I'm not
If I
gonna
say,
talk about
baby, that's
that.
a lie. I don't want to talk about that no more. That's a lie. I don't want to talk about it. That's a lie.
It's a
Damn.
difference in but if you put
Yeah, I don't want to talk because it's a
yeah,
lie. It's a lie. I don't entertain a lie.
and as long as you put that, you add that added
Put it.
connotation, baby, that's a lie, and I'm not gonna talk about that. I
Okay.
can
All right.
understand that, but for
All
you
right.
to just
Yeah.
say I'm not gonna
No, no, no. I mean,
address
I'm
that,
sorry. Yeah.
and
No,
I
I
don't
can't.
want to
No, no.
talk about
No,
it,
no. I
no,
mean,
that you
yeah,
can't
that's too
do.
much. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
too much.
that
Yeah,
you can't do.
no, I mean, you guys right. Yeah, I said it wrong, but if I was to say, yo, that's a lie, dude. Hey, babe, that's a lie, man. I don't want to talk about that
Right,
anymore.
Yeah, you
No,
raising red
bam.
flags
right.
by saying it the other way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I phrased it wrong. So you're saying you agree with that part, though, right? You agree with if I was to
Yes,
say that, you
I
agree with
agree
all
with
that?
that part, 100%.
And
As long as you say that to me,
yeah,
then I'm gonna go
yeah.
with what you say because I rock with you,
Right.
right?
Right.
I
Then
like that
we
support that you all are giving, Deborah. I like the support, and that was a good example, Andre. And for you, for the listeners, this is my main man right here, Andre. We go back to elementary school, and when I talk about barbershop talk, a lot of people don't know that we really did own a barbershop for many years, and it was a barbershop like no other. We didn't even have business hours. We spent several overnights in the barbershop, and we discussed and talked about everything. Guys talked to us about failing blood tests, if that's the way to describe it, or finding out that kids weren't theirs. Guys would talk about, they even had competitions about women who smelled the worst, about women who did
oh
X,
my
Y,
God.
Z. Yeah, it was wild in the barbershop. But something that the young lady that I dated when we owned the barbershop, she came to me with something once and I addressed it. Then she came to me with something else. I addressed it. Eventually, I told her that, listen, I'm in this barbershop, right? I'm not sitting here having sex with the women in the shop. It became tiring to have to constantly prove myself, my whereabouts to her at all times. Like anytime I took a break, I have to call her. Whenever she's on her lunch break from work, we're on the phone the entire hour during her lunch break. I was also a coach at the time. So I'll tell, hey, Dre, I'm about to head to the schools, right? Because my cell phone, our schools in a rural area didn't have the best reception, you know, out in the woods. So I would forward my cell phone calls to the barbershop. So if she ever called, someone would answer and Dre would say, hey, you know, Cole's at the school to get out of practice, blah, 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 blah. He'll be back. Right. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, look, I can't continue doing this. Right. And the more people see that they can get a reaction out of you, the more they're going to continue to come to you with different things, with different rumors and different stories. Um,
Right.
so, like Dre alluded to, eventually you're going to have to get to the point where it's like, look, either you're going to listen to them and do whatever, or you're going to have to trust me and know that you're important to me. I'm attracted to you. I'm not attracted to anyone else. I confide in you with everything that I do, and we have to get to that point. If not, we're going to be fanning away rumors and stories forever and ever. So I admire what you said. Yeah, and Black said, if we don't have trust, we don't have anything. And I agree with the part about trust issues. And we were young, man. We opened a barbershop in our 20s, and it seemed a little bizarre because, like I said, we didn't have hours, right? So, you know, in nightclubs, people start partying about midnight to 1 a.m. So guys would show up at 12:30 to 1 in the morning wanting to get a haircut. When the parties ended, our shop was in the center of our small town. So everyone would come through and hang out. Women would come through, guys would come through, and it became a hangout spot, but it's wide open to everybody. So situations that are unique like that I can see where it would create trust issues. I do see that. And when you think about, tying back to the original question, when we talk about a person's past, Dre, I think you're the only person who has not chimed in on this yet. Do you want to know if a person went through a little wild phase, and do you think you could handle it? And to what extent, to what degree? Like, what is the cutoff for you? We want to hear from you, Dre.
When y'all was talking about that earlier, I wasn't chimed in yet on the audio. For me, it's easy. I could handle it, but there's no profit in it. So why would I? You create new memories. Fuck what happened in the past. Who cares? We going forward, not backwards. So that's history anyway. You can't even change it. So we moving forward. I don't give a fuck about the past. None of that at all.
Language.
You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
going
no
forward.
profanity,
I'm
Andre.
sorry.
No
I'm sorry. You know
profanity.
what? See, that's why I stay on mute. I'm sorry. I got
No,
carried,
you're
guys.
good.
Pardon me.
You're
No, it's
good. You have an
okay. Just no
expanded
Yeah, I'll try to
profanity.
vocabulary.
work
That's
on that.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to move forward. We move forward, forward momentum, forward progression. That's everything, you know. If we move forward slowly, that's not that bad as long as we don't go backwards. If we're going backwards, looking in the past, that's backwards. So we can't change it to do anything. Ain't no profit at all in it. Next to selling data to people. You know what I mean? Other than that, it's no profit there. All they're gonna do is destroy you. That's the trick.
And does it
Because they
strengthen your
destroyed
trust?
something, you're gonna destroy you or something that already happened that don't even exist no more. And you
I
ain't even
agree.
been with the person when it happened, and you allowed it to destroy you. That's a trick.
I want to
I
ask you this, Dre. Do you think
Good one
that
too.
a woman being transparent, does it build additional trust to you, or will it create unnecessary insecurities?
I want you to communicate strategically to me. I don't want to know everything. I want to know wherever you think is gonna keep us together and keep it moving. I don't need to know everything. That's a trick. That's a motherfucking trick. I don't need to know everything. You know what I need to know. You know how I go. Sorry again, my language. That's a trick. I get so I get verbally out of hand
Exciting.
because I know spiritual, but I get spiritual because I know I'm talking about the devil. That's when I'm fighting the devil. So that's a trick of the devil. That's
So
all it is.
so you don't want to know about the threesome she had in the back of the barbershop?
Well, I mean, the only way she gonna bring that up is if we about to do a threesome now, and I did it before, such and such, and it'll help us moving forward. If he ain't gonna benefit us, well, what? I don't even know. I don't know what's gonna benefit us. I got
so let me ask you this, Andre, because me and Savannah had to have this head to head with Koshan about this. Do you feel like having a
head to head.
woman,
What does that mean? What kind of
I'm
term that is? No,
meaning
no,
meaning we butted heads
I don't
on
want to
this
be clear, man.
on this topic.
Okay. Me and you disagreed.
So
Disagreed. All right, got
yeah, we disagree, right?
you. All right.
So Koshan has this thing about,
We're down to
you know,
45 seconds, you all. I want to tell y'all thank you, but go
Okay.
ahead, Deborah.
All right.
all
Good
right,
deal. Good
man.
deal.
All
Good,
right,
good compliment. Good
Koshan
man. She can handle
Koshan has this thing about, thinking that men being able to be emotionally open and vulnerable with a woman is not a benefit to him in some way. You know what I'm saying?
it.
He feel he
I heard the whole conversation. I heard the whole
yeah. So
conversation,
do
and
you think that that's a benefit, like having that safe space in a woman,
now both of
having
you guys
a
were right.
woman that won't throw that back at you? That's not a benefit.
Both of you guys were right. Both of you guys were right. The reason why he's not sharing it because he been hurt, and the reason why you want it, you know what I mean, is girls abusing. So you got to work towards that. You ain't gonna get that out. It's called strategic communication. You know what I mean? That's all that is. I agree
I
with both of
think
y'all. Yes, I mean the reason why he doing that is because that I've been hurt before. I'm not here listening to what you say. You trying to trick me? Fuck that. You trying to trick me? You got your hand behind your back. You trying to trick me? Nah, fuck that. We gonna work and do this together fast.